everybody put your hands in all over the middle of this.
A very good morning to our chief guest, Dr. Eranga Pereira, head of the Overseas School of Colombo, Dr. Michelle Kleiss, COMUN faculty advisor, Dr. Daniel Lundin, members of the Secretariat, members of the Executive Committee, administrative staff, faculty advisors, and our delegates. We thank you all for joining us this morning, both in person and online.
We are proud to welcome you all to the opening ceremony of the 28th session of Colombo Model United Nations. My name is Rukhaya Farooq, and I'm joined by my fellow Deputy Head of Administration, Devishka Chandrasekhar.
The theme for this year's conference is reimagining multilateralism and reducing uncertainty. Colombo Model UN strives to impart pertinent values which are coherent with the current cultural and political zeitgeist. As perceived by the status quo, the need for diplomacy to reach political settlement in regions like Ukraine, the need for cultural sensitivity in addressing marginalized groups like the Uyghur community, and the need for awareness of social justice. For example, reforming law enforcement bodies are all important virtues which the COMUN experience empowers within delegates.
To commence the day's proceedings, we would like to invite our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Eranga Pereira, Head of the Overseas School of Colombo, Dr. Michelle Pleiss, COMUN Faculty Advisor, Dr. Daniel Landin, Secretary General of COMUN 2022, Sanya Patrika, Under Secretary General, Shaheen Abdul Ghani, President of the General Assemblies, Danika Nawinne, Head of the Operations, Saisha Sampak, and Head of Administration, David Maurice, to light the traditional oil lamp.
Thank you. Please rise for the national anthem.
now be seated. We would now like to invite Dr. Michelle Kleiss, head of the Overseas School of Colombo, to address the gathering.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2022 Colombo MUN conference hosted by the Overseas School of Colombo. I'd like to start with a special welcome to the chief guest, Dr. Aranga Pereira, Global Business Leader. The 196, or maybe even 200 now, students from 11 participating schools, and to congratulate the EXCO and the Secretary General, Sanya Pasricha, and the EXCO advisor, Dr. Daniel Lundin, who have been working tirelessly together to coordinate this event. As I prepared my thoughts for today, I was really struck by your chosen theme this year, reimagining multilateralism, reducing uncertainty, and how this ties in with the current events we are witnessing today in the Ukraine and Russia. Truly, I cannot imagine a more poignant moment for our young people who are our future leaders to discuss the importance of cooperation, shared norms, respect, equal rights, and the collective development of shared understandings for a more peaceful and sustainable world, especially in a very fragile moment. And I cannot think of a better way to reduce uncertainty than the idea of building alliances, relationships, and connections. What we are seeing today with Russia's invasion is unilateralism, quite the opposite of building bridges and far from the idea of using relational approaches and integrative thinking to achieve our desired future. No doubt you are all embroiled in these developments as you are here ready to start a conference modeled after an organization which embodies shared understandings. So way out on the sidelines of your life, far from the Russian and Ukrainian borders, you might be asking yourselves, how can I play my part in supporting and multilateral thinking in order to reduce uncertainty in my own community? Well, it starts with genuine relationship building. To be frank, my degrees and my work experiences are in educational leadership, not in international relations. I am no expert in this field, but I have to tell you, I use multilateral thinking almost every day in my work and in my family life, particularly with a teenage son. So my invitation to you over the next 3 days is to think about the 3 main drivers of relationship building, because your work as students here in Sri Lanka starts local before you can even go global. If all of you, our leaders of tomorrow, truly value genuine relationship building, the change we are seeking will and can begin here and now. So how do you do this? The first way is to consult. How do you seek and facilitate open discussions and dialogue in your families, at your school, in your communities, so that everyone's point of view is validated and heard? The second way is to include. During and after the COMUN conference is over, how will you include all voices in your decision-making, and more importantly, ensure that the voices of the disadvantaged and diverse groups of people are held with the very same weight as everyone else? And the third way is to connect. How do you see how issues or people are linked and associated? How can you draw connections in your school so that you can dive into exploring patterns and themes? And then how do you ensure you build an alliance towards a common solution? These are not easy questions, and there are no easy answers. But as schools, we are communities, and we have a special opportunity to hold space for listening and sharing stories so that empathy might replace prejudice and relationships triumph over stereotypes. Here at the Colombo MUN, and as students in your respective schools, you have the unique opportunity to model multilateral thinking in your communities. So I shall leave you with the thought that seeking ways to integrate everybody's thinking does not come overnight. It is a step-by-step process. It starts with you willing to build an honest and true and genuine relationship that allows for discourse, the inclusion of all voices, connection making, and holding space for opposable thoughts. Once again, I'd like to welcome you to the opening ceremony, and I truly wish you all have 3 fantastic days of genuine relationship building, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clive, for those enlightening words.
We now request that you divert your attention to the screen for the opening video of COMUN 2022. Thank you to our tech team for the video. We would now like to call upon our Deputy Head of Community Service on stage. On behalf of COMUN 2022 and the Executive Committee, I would warmly like to welcome our Chief Guest, Dr. Eranga Pereira. A small introduction into Dr. Eranga Pereira. Dr. Eranga Pereira holds a bachelor's degree from the University of London in Mathematics and Computing with first-class honours, and a master's from the University of New South Wales, Australia, in the Masters of Information and Science. She also holds a PhD from the University of New South Wales in Electrical Engineering and Telecommunication. Surprisingly, she also holds a bachelor's degree in law from the University of London with honours. She's a pioneer of the IT field of Sri Lanka and is responsible for setting up Sri Lanka's first business park located in Tripoli, Colombo 1, the trades expert city, which was founded in 2013. She served under the then appointment of President Rajapaksa as the CEO from April 2013 to January 2014. She has also held numerous positions
in associations such as the Vocational Training Authority of Sri Lanka and the Ministry of Higher Education. Following the 2019 election, she also served as the Group CEO of Trace XXVIII in 2020. She is also a high-ranking member of Viat Maga, which was instrumental in the 2019 presidential election. I would warmly like to welcome Dr. Eranga Pereira on stage to deliver her keynote speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Damsit, for the introduction. Ayubowan, good morning to you all. It is indeed an absolute honor and great pleasure to be here at the COMUN 2022 to address at the opening ceremony. My main intention here today is to make you all start actively engaging in the theme of this conference, which is reimagining multilateralism. In the 21st century, we cannot discuss anything without it being even notionally liberal. Hence, I would start off by defining what liberal multilateralism is. Liberal means to say that you're willing to be open to other people's opinions and ideas and also to accept their behaviors, even though it is different from your own view. Then what is multilateralism? Multilateral pacts means where 3 or more organizations or countries come together to achieve a common goal. Hence, idealistically, a liberal multilateral pact among nations would be where all nations come together to make sure that the common goal is achieved while respecting each other. Now, I would like to ask you all to think and tell me whether truly liberal multilateral pacts exist between nations. Can anyone tell me what do you think? I want her to engage with me. It doesn't. Okay. For me too, it's a very big, my opinion too is a very big no, right? The reason why I say this, I just find that this word liberal is being tossed around, especially in the Western world, just to be politically correct, right? Pardon me for saying that, but that is the truth. And in reality, almost all multilateral agreements between states are controlled by the rich and powerful nations and multinational companies. We then come to the billion-dollar question. How do we achieve liberal multilateralism? The golden rule is to accept that one nation's rights and freedoms stop when it violates another nation's rights and freedoms. This is clearly stated in the United Nations Charter, Article 2.4, as all members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations. Looking at what is happening in the world, it is sad, it is truly sad to see that this article has become a mere bunch of politically correct words put together just to be used when it suits the rich and powerful nations and their allies. Now we need to do a reality check. This day and age, we have new innovations, best of technologies. We can even travel to space. It's no big deal, right? But what has happened? There is so much pain, agony, despair in all different corners of the world. we need to do something. My dear sons and daughters of this nation, we belong to a country where a supreme human being taught us the way to live. The Buddha taught us that the way to live is by cultivating the four sublime truths, that is, love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. So I really want all to think, what can we do to actually reimagine multilateralism? What we need to do is to base multilateralism, liberal multilateralism, on nothing but humanity. That's the only way forward. So, very soon, I just heard from Dr. Head of School that you people would be venturing out to different countries to pursue your university life. Remember one thing, wherever you go, do not compromise on your moral values. It's no point becoming a Bill Gates or a Steve Jobs or whatever, but what counts is to make sure that you do not put your personal interests before national interests, and then again, you do not put your national interest put it forward if it's going to violate another nation's interests. Make sure that you do the correct thing and you will be happy. Nature itself will protect you. Let all the pain we see day in, day out, in every corner of the world, be eradicated, alleviated from, by just being believers in humanity. May the truth of the sublime truths be the thing that should be the cool thing for you all. That's all I want to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Pereira.
We will now be witnessing the induction of the Secretariat for COMUN 2022. And for that, we would like to call upon our chief guest, Dr. Eranga Pereira, Head of the Overseas School of Colombo, Dr. Kleiss, and COMUN Faculty Advisor, Dr. Landine, to induct the Secretariat.
Secretary General Sanya Pashrika.
Under Secretary General Shaheen Abdul Ghani.
President of the General Assemblies Tamika Nawin.
Head of Operations Saisha Sampa.
And Head of Administration David Morris.
Thank you, Dr. Pereira. We request Dr. Landine to remain on stage, and we now invite the Secretary General and Under Secretary General to join Dr. Landine on stage to induct the Executive Committee.
Deputy Head of Operations Dharmini Vimalasen.
Deputy Head of Administration Ravishka Chandrasekhara.
Deputy Head of Administration Rukai Farooq.
Head of Community Service, Devin Vimalasenan.
Deputy Head of Community Service, Damsik Vimalasenan.
Head of Technology, Litira Piyatungal.
Head of Media, Vinuda Veerasinghe.
Deputy Head of Media, Oliver Smith.
Deputy Head of Technology, Joel Gerard.
And now we move on to General Assembly 3. Vice President, Dinetra Vijayaratna.
Chair, Tajneer Manji.
Vice Chair, Rinette Dizoiza.
General Assembly 4, Vice President, Femia Gurusinghe.
Chair, Vinuki Madagaman.
Vice Chair, Daniel Degan.
The Economic and Social Council, Vice President, Imad Muwahid.
Vice President, Halakmi Patiraj.
Chair, Siddharth Jha.
African Union, President, Imad Mashur.
Co-President, Venuk Rajakari.
Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice. Co-President, Atif Anpudi.
Co-President, Raya de Silva.
Futuristic Security Council. President, Tinula Karunara.
Vice President, Samira Nizar.
The International Press Corps. Head, Chatma Kunchiheva.
Deputy Head, Pep Fernando.
Deputy Head, Umama Hussain.
And that concludes the induction of the Executive Committee for COMUN 2022. Next, we call upon the Head and Deputy Head of Community Service to introduce this year's Community Service Project.
Good morning to everyone present here today. The Colombo operated model UN has always strived itself in bettering the community, not only by creating compassionate, open-minded leaders, but through our community service initiative, which has become a tradition over the 28 years of its inception. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected all of us, from the way we interact to the way we communicate,
to the way we learn. All of us here today had the privilege of adapting onto an online learning environment, but this isn't the case with everyone. Many children across Sri Lanka had their education disrupted due to the pandemic, resulting in long learning gaps in their curriculum. All children have a right to an education, but it isn't a right that so many children have not been able to fully enjoy. Therefore, this year's community service initiative is aimed towards supporting under-resourced and underfunded schools in Sri Lanka. Furthermore, the cost of failure is high. Without quality education, children do not gain the skills they need to fully participate in society and exercise their right. When children are not in school, society loses the protective benefits that quality education brings. Lost education opportunities, lost economic prospects later in life, and children become more vulnerable to exploitation. Therefore, all agents, including us, the youth, should mobilize to create an equal education system. I will end my speech before handing to Damsit by saying, years don't wait for them. Therefore, it is our duty and it is our responsibility to create a more equitable future for underprivileged kids across Sri Lanka. Thank you.
I would like to thank my head of community service, Devin Vimal Sena, for those inspiring words. So this year's main community service project, the focus was on education. A recent report from the United Nations suggested that the impact of the coronavirus pandemic resulted in 70 million children being school leavers by the age of 13. So to mitigate this impact, we, even as a small organization, we decided to focus on schools in the outskirts of Colombo. What became very shocking to me and Devin was the lack of resources, which many of these schools don't have. Sri Lanka as a nation is very fortunate. Since independence in 1948, we have been having a free education system founded by Dr. C.W.W. Kannangara. So there is free education, but there is a lack of resources. And to mitigate this, we have decided to donate items such as books, pens, pencil cases, necessary equipment such as science lab glasses, all of those to schools around the outskirts of Colombo. And most notably, we would like to thank our sponsors who have helped us in making this dream come true for so many people around Sri Lanka, especially students who want to learn but don't have the basic facilities to do so. This year's community service initiative is fulfilling that dream of them getting a quality education. And as I always say, may all beings be well, may all beings be happy, may all beings live a long and prosperous life. In order to be prosperous, education is the key. And this year's community service initiative is making sure that that dream comes true for all those schools who are involved in this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Devin and Damsit.
Finally, on the agenda, we would like to invite the Secretary General, Sanya Patrika, to declare the session open.
You know, one of those moments when you can't believe something that you've been anticipating for months is finally here. I'm probably going through that. Nonetheless, I would like to welcome everyone present. You learn about reading and writing and understanding everything you've done. Third, listen and learn. This is not only for novice delegates, and I know most of the expo is a testimonial to this. Even with 6 years of experience behind you, you can still learn from someone who is a novice, and vice versa. Listen to their technique of speaking, addressing the chairs, and strong elements of their speeches, and also learn from each other's mistakes. You only get better once you learn from your own and others' strengths and weaknesses. That's how we make each other better. Fourth and last is incorporating the theme of this year's conference into your resolutions. The theme for this year's conference is reimagining multilateralism and reducing uncertainty. The dire need for multilateralism and the exacerbation of it by some nations is appalling. For all delegates and IBCs and chairs, please help each other incorporate this into your resolution. The ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia calls for this conference to be sensitive towards these nations, present solutions with ethical consideration, and make sure to have a multilateral approach. As the Kenyan ambassador said, multilateralism lies on its deathbed tonight, as it has been assaulted, as it has been by many powerful states in the recent past. It is concerning and saddening to see the situation in Ukraine and many more situations of crisis across the world. We together can solve this. We together can stop this. And we together can believe in ourselves to do our part so we do not suffer. As Antonio Guterres said on 25th February 2022, we must give peace another chance. And with that, I wish the EXCO, delegates, and IPCs, as well as admins, good luck for this conference. I know you will all do amazing. Speak up, listen and learn, believe in yourselves, and the research that you put into this conference. Finally, what we all have been waiting for. By the power vested in me as Secretary General of COMUN 2022, I officially declare this session open.
Thank you, Sandhya.
And with that, we have come to the end of the opening ceremony for COMUN 2022.
We wish all our delegates all the very best in the next 3 days. We hope debate will be intense, fruitful, and just as special to all of you here today as it is to us. We hope everyone is well researched and ready for the exciting debates ahead. Good luck, delegates.
Please rise as the Secretary General, Under-Secretary General, and President of the General Assemblies escort our esteemed chief guests outside the hall.
Stay here for a minute. You don't have to pack out 38 grade, but stay here for a minute. You all don't know where the location is.
This is a kind reminder to the delegates to be logged into their sessions 10 minutes before the committee starts. Thank you all.
First.